in 1896 at least.
You're a McMillan, we're probably related. You were
Just keep them in a dressing
all
drawer,
McMillans over there,
wrapped up.
Kansas Smiths are all related.
Well, if you have somewhere to put them out so that they wouldn't be in the sunlight, I wouldn't want them in the sunlight because the cloth would degrade then, but they're beautiful. I'd want to show them.
She escaped from a French prison.
This one is almost a Cupid doll style.
I can assure you, my grandmother would never worn a dress like that. It would have been buttoned up to here.
Dates to the 1920s or so. The hairstyle is almost like the flappers.
My grandmother, she said she came back from a day one night to put a tweet.
Great condition. The clothes on this one appear to be handmade. The clothes on this one are machine made. Pins added to the front. I think that this one may be earlier. It's probably late 1800s to perhaps early 1900s with newer clothing added. Here's one that's almost the same doll head as this one. It's sold at auction for $70. Their estimate had been that it would sell for $80 to $120. Actually, I would say that the outfit they have on it is probably an inappropriate outfit, so I think that this one would be valued more highly because of the outfit. Right. I think that probably the $120 would be pretty well accurate for this, and that would be at an auction. So at an antique shop, I would multiply that by 3 and look for $360 for it in an antique shop. And this one is probably going to be a little bit harder to find. Take more research. It's pretty style. I would say you're probably looking at the same sort of value for it. Looking at a little over $100 for the doll if you were to sell it at auction, and in an antique shop about 3 times that.
Today, what can you tell me about this sword?
My father-in-law did a swap back in the early 70s. He worked at a service station right off of 95, and I guess it was fairly new still back then. And he had people coming from up north down south, and they needed to get back up north and ran out of money. So they swapped a tank of gas for it.
So someone traded a tank of gas for a sword. Well, that's a fantastic story, and it was a good swap. You're about half, because we've been pretty well able to identify this sword with its original scabbard. It is a U.S. Army artillery officer's sword. It is marked in a couple of places. One up here near the guard that says A&A Solingen Schnitzler, so that's a German blade. Also, it's marked on the blade itself. It's a little hard to see, but the letters U and S for United States are marked on the blade. It was made apparently twice. Once this sword came out in 1864-65 during the Civil War, and then evidently also it appeared again in the 1880s during the Indian Wars in America. It is in basically original condition here, which is quite nice. It has in both on the pommel and on the guard what's known as a heraldic or spread-winged eagle, a very American emblem. And it has its original leather grip with the brass wire wrapping. It's typical of many of many army swords. Again, we can talk a little bit about value, just what we've been able to check in a couple of searches. Appears to be somewhere between $600 and $1,200. Thanks for bringing it in.
I know, well, if I don't look, it doesn't mean we can't figure it out.
Let's look it up and see if it works. Sometimes these things are easy and some things are more.
What's there is the base of the net. I can't read it because it's so tarnished. The buffalo nickel is in the quarter shade, some of that is buffalo nickel. Some of that is beyond the value of the nickel. But they use better condition. That's significant.
So this is calling it a victor phone.
Yeah, it wouldn't have one point rather than the neck of the Indian, but it totally rusted away.
I wish they'd shown it empty, man, it sure looks like it. Surely looks like it.
I mean, that's the same sword form. Let's look back and see if you're good. That's from 70
Now,
Let's look back and see if there's anything else similar to the top. Yeah, that's a little more so. 1 cent baby gumballs. I think yours is gumball. I think those round slots are more gumball oriented. Let's see here. Gumball machine. 100.
thank you for bringing those in. That's fine.
Now that's marble.
Good luck with your collection.
Countertop bidding for
Good afternoon.
Well, it strikes me though, it could definitely be either one, because it looks like there's something round, they go in slots. But yeah, these things are well known, they've sold a bunch.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I just want to find out.
So we got a span somewhere between, what was the first price? I said it was 100. So somewhere between, the stickiness on there, what this was on there. It probably said marbles or gumballs or something like that, so that's come off. So in that light, it may be on the lower end of it just because value-wise, just because it's not just as it once was. Yeah, I'd say you're about right. There's a bit of writing down on the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I know that guy. I call him.
All right.
He
just wrote on there like I used to write on my old Jackson board.
1980.
1980. I think that's what it is. And again, the missing information on the front would tell us would be whether it was marbles or gumball. And it might be, it could be either one. I bet the design is too soon. Looks like sometimes the price changes over 5 cents.
Well, the Eagle said,
Yes, it's a countertop, probably a countertop pinball machine. Or a store.
I am. Let me start with you. That's my sister Carol. Hey. She's visiting from Pennsylvania.
I'd say that's, if you're thinking that low, then you're fine. I'm sure it's worth it.
Don's here with
If it's worth, yeah, it may be to
I'm glad Don's
jump up. Yeah.
I ain't not.
If you ever,
some sort of a.
sometimes you get lucky. You're in a shop somewhere and you find the old paper that says gumball, you match it back up, you know, and then there's no loss of value. That would be luck. To find where you get a label for it to go on there, but it says it is too.
The first thing that we have is a Nippon urn, hand-painted. It's a little bit curious in that it actually is in 3 pieces. Separate lid, and then it divides right here with the base being bolted onto the upper part of the urn. How did it come into your family?
Well, I thought it was a European piece, and I thought it was my granddaddy's cigar jar, and my great-grandfather, David Sally, in Orangeburg.
And what we found was that from the mark on the bottom, it actually dates to 1891 to 1911. Nippon is the name for Japan, and so that means that it was made in Japan. And we found auction records for similar pieces for $200 to $600. And so in an antique shop, typically that would be up to 3 times that, so $600 to $1,800 for a replacement value or insurance value. And then we have a separate piece, a little Nippon planter with original metal insert, marked with a Noritake mark on the bottom. One of the curious things is as we looked at the scene on the urn, it looks almost European, like it's a Bavarian scene almost. And then when we look at the side of the ceramics here, it's a very similar building. It's almost the same thing. And what I was explaining earlier is that frequently, if it was a design that was selling, then other people would copy that design and continue it on. Whatever was hot would be what they would pay. Follow the money, as they say. Do you know anything about the history of this?
No, I don't. I grew up with that piece. And that's really all I know from my first recollection.
Well, it's a beautiful piece of ceramics and very unusual that you have the original liner to go with it, so we want to take good care of keeping the two together. Thank you both for bringing these items in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where'd you get it?
This is my grandmother's, and I knew it was old, but that's really all I know of it.
It is a piece of what's known in the trade as rocking ware, and that is principally identified by the brown, what we call mottled glaze, meaning it's got sort of textural things going on in the coloration. It is unmarked underneath, and that's kind of a good sign too. Usually things that are more modern, meaning let's say 1890 and later, will have the country of origin, which in this case would be England marked on there. So it predates that. I would date it, roughly speaking, the mid-19th century, probably right around 1850 or so. The market always appreciates things that are titled or known, and this one is a scenic version of Rebecca at the Well, a biblical story. A little bit of a note on condition. There are a ding or two on this, a couple of little chips, but particularly in utilitarian wares, wares that were really made not so much to go around on the shelf, but to be used, you find a little bit of damage here and there, and the market pretty much does about the market too much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raymond.
This was our she was the secretary of that club. We lived in New York City. She made her maiden voyage. They sent 12 flowers. And on her way back, she wrote the stocking on the ship all the way to France.
Finding some Amelia Earhart signatures, just the signature for $375. The lowest one I'm seeing is $225.
She'll laugh.
Congratulations.
On a letter, $650 to $1,000. There's one here that's $500. I'm going to take a look at it. No, it's a similar type of letter.
Japanese company that's more upon
We need to dig deeper in our mother's stuff. She grew up in New York City.
It's a signature on a first edition book, a limited edition book. So the book would have value in addition to the signature. It was a book about one of their flights. Well, a very nice piece. I'm looking at auction results, and so the fair market value would be $650 to $1,000 in an antique shop. $1,800, $3,000.
Is that what you're gonna offer?
No, actually, I'm ethically prohibited from offering you anything for it since I'm appraising it. But so if you were to say that you wanted to sell it and you got it into a good auction, I would expect it to bring somewhere between $650 and $1,000. And if you put the story with it explaining, I would put it maybe on an envelope attached to the back or something, explaining that your relative had received it and how they received it and all like that, then that adds to the story and that would add to the value.
We just brought one back. But we never knew if, it was a real thing or not. If it's not the real thing, I get it. It's very heavy.
The lamp itself is not the real thing. Well, the shade, if it is real, still could be valuable enough to have a very significant value.
Don't tell that stuff when you're selling family jewelry.
Oh, well, I'm telling you.
Very pretty. When do you think it was brought over?
It had to be real long time. My aunt was pregnant when she passed, and she had had them for 20 plus years, and this lady was like 90. They gave them to her.
Mm-hmm.
What's the date?
So I don't know exactly how long.
It was the last ship to leave France. Yeah. Look at this thing, my great aunt was the secretary.
But if she ever left home for any time, she took them with her. Because that was her most valuable. She thought.
She owned in New York State. I heard the other day. World War II was the Ildefonse.
We actually looked for a number.
Anything that she could, no matter, couldn't find anything.
We just always wanted to try you.
She actually thought that was beautiful.
Well, it is beautiful, and I bet it's even prettier if you turn the light on and the light is shining through it. There's no doubt that it's beautiful. Whether it has significant value is a separate issue.
The other one has different colored shade, different colors of the shade.
It's the same design.
But where it's blue, it's green, black and green.
I don't think it has dragonflies though. I don't think it has dragonflies on it.
Fish away around.
We should have brought both.
And it must be.
Oh, I don't see the dragonfly. Yeah.
Yeah, dragonflies is one of the most famous of Tiffany's designs, but at the same time that makes it one of the most copied of Tiffany's designs. One of the things, well, I'm always suspicious of a Tiffany lamp just because the real ones are so rare and so expensive. But the other thing that's concerning me about this is the way that the black is over the wings of the dragonflies. I don't think that Tiffany would have done it that way.
Sit dragonflies in the shape.
Oh, I love dragonflies.
Yes, Presley was born, that's what I did for big bedroom. Don't you get rich?
Which I never thought I would. When I looked out of my head.
Yeah, this is pot metal, and I'm not crazy about this. Tiffany did a much better job with this part. But this, I think, is very pretty.
What kind of metal did they use?
Bronze, usually.
You know, I asked you why would that lady if they were worth so much money.
And normally Tiffany would not be a figural thing like this. It would be something that would look more like a plant growing down that would go along with this. Let me pull it.
I have a hand-colored engraving here. The original for it was painted by an artist named Louis Tessier, who worked for the Gobelin tapestry manufacturing company. Not a lot known about his life, but he's well commemorated by a series of etchings and engravings that were created by the engraver J.J. Avril. And this particular plate is from came from a book that's called the Book of Baskets and Vases and Flowers by Tessier. And one of the ways you can identify an engraving or an etching as opposed to a lithograph is by the presence of a deeply indented plate mark. And that's what we see along the edge here, where there is a relief from the outer edge to the inner edge. This, as I said, did come out of a book, and that is identified by the page number, number 6 on this one. And again, an etching hand-colored. This is a little bit different piece. We've been looking at some pieces that had significant financial value, and this one does not necessarily fit in that category. It is an early print on paper. The frame, as you can see, has suffered from age, but it is in a very early frame. But financial value is not the only way to value. Tell me about this.
This was my grandmother's picture that had been handed down through several generations, and it's just sentimental for me because I got to be the lucky one to, inherit it. So I'm just tickled to have it, and it hangs on my wall in my living room, and I'm just, I just always wanted to see, how it was, by someone that, professional to see what it was worth. I would never sell it, but it would just be for my knowledge.
It's a beautiful piece. It's retained its color, and I can see why you cherish it. And this is your daughter?
This is my daughter, Sherry, and she was just interested in it too. She said it was just, so sentimental for us and our family. That was my daddy's mother, and so we just enjoyed it so much, and it's always gone.
Wonderful that you have this to carry on the family memories.
It is, it is.
Thank you very much.
This in it.
We were just talking about this last night, that this is, in the U.S., we didn't have silver mines until the mid-19th century. So what got turned back into new silver, stuff just like this, went back into the pot, remelted, brought out in the latest fashion. So these are the rare, it's English obviously, but it's still a rare survivor in the United States. Yeah.
You think that they're spurious?
The spurious marks? Did you?
I did not.
I think it looks good.
Okay, I thought that I was hearing you
Wanted
say
that verified? Yeah.
No, I just thought that you'd want to see it.
I do, it's beautiful.
I got in a junk store in North Carolina. I was just passing through and stopped. It looked like an interesting store. And I saw this sitting in the corner, back in the corner behind some stuff, and I love the color, and so I just bought it.
You're just attracted to it. Just attracted. It's a very easy to buy painting. It's plainly signed for Severino and dated 1972. That's Lino, Lino Severino Jr., who was a Philippine painter. I wanted to show it because it's an example right now of a very high-trend art in collectibles and antiques. That's what we call mid-century art. That works in that genre anywhere from the early 1950s right through the 1970s. It also touches on another collectible area, which would be works from the Far East, the Chinese have become a very strong presence in the art market, in the purchasing of art. And the Philippines is part of Asia and is in that menu. We looked up some auction comparables on it. We didn't find, this is a scene that appears to be sailboats. We found some other more architectural works by the artist, but that were selling in the $7,000 range. What'd you pay for it, by the way?
$45.
Well, you did a good job.
Yeah. Thanks.
To the Citadel, a couple of weeks.
I just don't know about the right body to sit down. Way, it's interesting. So it's glass, decorated to look somewhat like ceramics. Like from a distance, I thought you were bringing a piece of porcelain. It's actually a piece of glass. You can see that it was made in two parts. Actually stops right there. It's kind of applied. One of the generic ways to determine glass's age is at the neck. If there's a gap on a bottle or a glass between where the mold line and one way the emphasis on the inside and on the lip, you can better sort of apply to that. But usually things that do that are a little bit older. So, and just from the wear and the life of this thing, I would say it's early 20th century. Does that correspond to any dates you ever had for? Anybody ever seen anything different?
My grandmother's 95 years old.
She's had it.
And it was her mother's.
Her mother's too, so it could be late 1900s.
It's either her mother's or her grandmother's, I don't know.
Yeah, and they could have bought it new, and they probably did. So that could put it back to the late 1900s. Stylistically, it's not going to be an era. Sort of Art Nouveau and feel, which is late 1900s. And before then, too, you have a rough column mark on there because all glass at that point is blown. So this is without the column mark, and again, as we spotted with this machine seams on here, that pretty well puts it to no to get back to the last period. So yeah, I'd go with late 1900s. Broadly speaking, we can say 1880 to 1820. Value-wise, not a whole lot. There's two reasons. One is we don't know exactly what it is. The Victorian era stuff is really because unfortunately people like us are all wanting stuff in the 1950s and 60s or 70s or something.
Right.
It's still probably $100. Sentimentally, it's probably. So tell me what you got here.
It's just a Professor Pug Frog's penny bank, or whatever you want to put in it.
Professor Pug Frog's great bicycle feet.
Great bicycle feet. It's one of those
says that on there.
$5 antique buys we made, but just interesting. So
it is and more. It's a cast iron bank made by the J.E. Stevens Company. Interesting firm that started in the mid-19th century. They were making cast iron hardware. They made a cap gun that was so popular, they got into more toys. And so by 1869, they made a bank, I think, that a monkey popped out of the building on that was so popular that after that they didn't make anything but cast iron banks and toys. And now they're considered probably the most prolific maker of such objects ever in the history of the United States. This is a rare bank. There are others known out there that are rare by that firm, but this is certainly one of their rarest banks. Why don't you take a moment and show us how it operates?
you just put the
So you loaded it with a penny in the top.
Yep. And
Spin.
playing around. You can actually that would work. You can actually do it either way with it in your mouth. And it just deposits the coin there.
So the coin is, I got you. So basically you've got, I think these are clowns on either end, right? And one of them's holding a basket, and this is a frog on the top. Interestingly, I looked up a few of these banks, and I didn't see any of them. We think this, by the way, is original paint on here. It certainly seems to be, as you pointed out, the hardware on it is right, the screws are right, the painting, when it's missing, is right down to the cast iron. This looks, for all intents and purposes, to be just right. And the frog, the spotted frog, I didn't see as I was checking out the others that had sold. You might be sort of excited to note this, though, that the last one that I found is sold back in a year ago, 2014, for $12,000 from auction.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.